morning, and thank you, Guido and Bo. Okay, what I will present to you today is not something strictly speaking on the methodological side, but more how we crazy policymakers are going to implement all this stuff in your life from tomorrow. Well, first of all, why we are doing that. I was already mentioning this in the previous section, and being a plenary, I assume that you were all there. The reason why the Commission has been doing this work on developing an harmonized methodology on environmental footprint for products and organizations is based on a number of issues, some of them related to the right of the consumers to receive precise and accurate information, environmental information, when buying products. Another one related to the fragmentation of the market due to the mushrooming of initiatives both at public levels, so member states, and also at private levels, but also in an attempt to make the life of businesses easier in terms of greening their value chain, and so finding a way to better communicate between suppliers and producers and more in general customers. All this has been translated into policy requests to the Commission. I just mentioned here some of the relevant policy papers where basically different actors, so some departments of the Commission itself, the Council, so the head of states, but also to a large extent private corporations were asking the Commission to come out with this harmonized methodology. What are the issues? So why we need that? I mean, we could spend a lot of time on these slides because it links to a lot of things that Bo has been saying, and were also said in the previous plenary session. Basically, the problem we see currently is that the ISO 1440, which is our source of inspiration for all LCA practitioners, the primary source of inspiration, does not allow to get that precision that we need if we want to compare products on a consistent basis in terms of environmental performance. And that is also true to a large extent for organizations. Simply because being an ISO standard, it includes a lot of flexibility built in it in terms of methodological choice for basic all of the elements, from the goal and scope definition to characterization and life cycle impact assessment methods, allocation, and all the different issues. And so even by applying the ISO standard and be consistent with an ISO standard, currently you will get different results when doing an LCA on the same product. Simply because people will take different assumptions. And this is, I mean, there is nothing wrong with that until we remain in the domain of using LCA for internal improvement of performances for companies or for doing academic research. The problem is when you want to use that in a policy, in a community policy, then that poses some issues, because then the reliability and the consistency of that policy is put at stake. And so basically we were prevented from taking stronger actions at policy level exactly because of this lack of a consistent methodology there. So we have been analyzing the existing methodologies independently from being attributional or consequential. That is not an issue that is relevant for us, in the sense that what we needed was a methodology that could help the Commission and the Member States to achieve the political objectives that we had. One of those being moving towards a system that will allow us to have a quantitative comparability of the performances of products belonging to the same product category. So we have been looking at the different methodologies, of course the ISO standards, and all the other existing at the time when the analysis was done in 2010. And basically what we came out was that for one reason or the other, we couldn't use any of the existing standards. So it was decided to start this process of developing an harmonized methodology, but building on the existing, so not reinventing the wheel that has been reinvented already too many times. So the new methodology will not be new to any extent. It's just the attempt to find what is common along all the different methodologies and keep what is already common, and where we have divergences to take a clear position on what is the requirement that should be followed. So the methodology will be based on ISO, but it will deviate from ISO. And we hope not that this will not add confusion, but it will deviate for some specific reasons that I will explain later. It's based on the ILCD, as Bo was also mentioning, the situation AC1. So the guide that we will publish next year will be a general guideline, meaning that it will be a guideline that could be applicable to any product for the PEF, so for the Product Environmental Footprint Guide, and any organization for the OEF, the Organization Environmental Footprint Guide. And this will be used for a number of applications. Of course, as we also already say in the guide, when you want to get to the comparative assertion or comparison, depending on how you define them, the guide itself will not be enough. But you will need specific category rules, or the PCR by using the ISO 14025 terminology. So we will also start this work of developing PCR for priority products and sectors at the European level, so that we will have a single PCR valid for that product group or sector group, and not the tens of PCR for the same product group, which currently we are facing. This work has been done in a very tight timeline. Everything started more or less in December 2010, and it was supposed to be concluded by December of this year. We will have some slight delay, so we plan to adopt the communication with the methodologies possibly in March 2013. The main reason for this delay is not a political problem, even if, frankly speaking, we are facing some tough political discussion on this issue, but is mainly related to the decision that we had to already translate the guidelines in all the 20 languages at the European level. So this translation activity is taking some time, because each document is about 150 pages, and it's quite a technical one. So this is causing some delays. Which are the objectives? As I said, we are building on existing methods. It will be a one-stop shop, meaning that you won't need to consult too many other documents, because the things that are taken from other documents are copy and paste in the guide itself. It is a multi-criteria, because since already a couple of years, the Commission clearly stated that looking at a single criterion, being it carbon, being it water, or whatever, is not enough, and it is often also a dangerous approach, because you can shift burdens in several ways. So it is a multi-criteria, but it will not focus on all the 14 or so ILCD impact categories, in the sense that we will, through the definition of the category rules, we will identify the most relevant impact categories. It will be probably 3 categories for product information, maybe more for organizational reporting. And so the companies will be only asked to look into those priority categories and not into everything. This is a simplification measure. Of course, in order to do that, you have to deviate from ISO, because you will need to have a normalization and weighting system in the methodology. And of course, ISO 14040, let's say, is not so keen in suggesting using normalization and weighting. And as I said, this will be one of the challenges that we have to face, to find a system to develop in a timely manner consistent rules for products and sectors. And this will be part of an action that I will describe later. Why we think that this is a simplification opportunity? Because it's, and this is an argument that industry understands very well, it's one single methodology instead of the very many that they have to face currently in the European and also in the international context. Because by having category rules and sectoral rules, they will have to look at a limited number of issues, and that, of course, focusing their already limited resources. Because we also want to develop user-friendly tools that will support the calculation. So we are not going to develop a calculation tool because there are already several very good existing on the market, and it's not the objective of the Commission to substitute the market players because they are doing their work very well. And what we aim at in the future is to create a system that will give free or low-cost access to life cycle data at European, but possibly also at international level. We are discussing this also in the context of the UNEP Rio Plus 20 10-year framework program. Which are the challenges? Negotiating at European level is already tough enough. When you move the negotiation at international level, it becomes really a challenge. So it is a process that will take years, and it will not be easy because there are a number of issues that we have to take into account, specific situations in different continents, in different regions, and also different agenda or hidden agenda. Another challenge is the quality of data. In the environmental footprint methodologies, we are introducing, and probably this is the first time compared to the other methodologies we're currently existing, we are introducing a clear quantification of the quality requirements for data. This quantification is nothing new for database developers. EcoInvent already has its own quantification of quality requirements, which, if I recall what Bo told me in a different occasion, is even more prescriptive or higher quality than the quality that we are introducing in the PEF. He's not nodding, so probably I don't recall that clearly, but we can discuss that later. So we will, but this poses a challenge because many databases don't have this quality system built in. So it will be a challenge for database developers to adapt and conform to what Europe will ask at this level. To develop category rules in a consistent way will be not an easy task because there, basically, you have to convince competitors to sit around the same table and to agree on rules. And this is slightly different from what happens, for example, in the ISO 14025, where there is also a consultation process, but is a more fluffy one, where there is no real prescription to have all the competitors around the table. How to involve SMEs and how to give them the right tools to implement the different methodologies is another challenge that we'll face. And then, and this is probably the most difficult one, we have to come up with a verification system which is strong enough but also not too much costly in order to be used for policy making. Because as you know, because this is also related to a long discussion in WTO, whenever you try to introduce a policy which refers to properties of the product which are not directly visible in the product, you need to have a verification system ex ante, so on the conformancy, and also ex post on the market surveillance, which is strong enough to be sure that you can have a full traceability of the data and relate them to the product. And this is something that we are reflecting now how to do that, how to have that system, and it will also be part of the future actions that we will implement from next year. This slide I will skip because it's not really related to the discussion today. So as I said, March 2013, probably we will adopt the communication and present two methodologies, and at that time we will also announce an EU-wide pilot system that we will launch in collaboration with industry and the other stakeholders. It will be probably a 3-year pilot, very similar to what France has been doing in the context of the Grenelle pilot. The objectives of the pilot will be mainly 3. It will be to test the process of developing category rules for products and sectors, to test different verification systems for the embedded impacts, and to test different communication vehicles. There is also a 4th objective which will be probably added to the pilot, which is to work with member states, governments, in order to see how to link the environmental footprint information to possible incentives, being then fiscal incentives or reputational incentives. We will publish a call for volunteers for industries and other stakeholders, including member states, who will want to lead these pilots according to a set of rules that we will publish at that time. And of course, as I said, independently from who will be leading the pilots, being the Commission, being member states, or being an industry, they will all have to follow the same rules in an open, transparent, and multi-stakeholder process. And these are the next steps. As I said, now the first two are internal steps, so discussion with the Impact Assessment Board and with other Commission services. Then adoption of the communication in March 2013, launch of the pilot, then the pilot will start in July. We will keep working on methodological issues like normalization factors on consumption, based on consumption models for Europe. We will start a discussion on the weighting system. As you know, weighting is not a technical thing, it's a political one, and I can already see some hot discussion around that. And we will continue the international dialogue with UNEP and with the other trade partners. Thank you very much for your attention.